Welcome to School Facilities and Operations. I'm Burke Jones. I am the host of the podcast, and each week on our show, we talk with other facilities professionals working in K-12 building operations, or we talk with trade partners who share their expertise with us on things that we need to know more about to adequately maintain our buildings for our students and for our patrons. So today I'm joined by Matt Dedeke. He is the Director of Facilities at Leavenworth School District, USD 453 in Kansas. So welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me, Burke. Appreciate
So,
you doing this podcast. It's pretty cool so far. Listening to all the other guest speakers.
well, thank you. I'm having a blast doing it. I'm learning a lot, and it's great getting that kind of feedback. So, tell us a little bit about your career to date, and then I ask everybody to share something about yourself that we can't read on LinkedIn.
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, I don't have a lot of social media, so LinkedIn is it. So it kind of keeps me out of trouble. I have to start. I've married 24 years. My wife and my kids, 19 and 21, keep me focused and motivated every day, and supported to get where I've gotten. A little bit about my personal side. I enjoy building furniture, refinishing furniture. Typically happiest when I get to work with my hands and think just a little bit. Um, I'm a born and raised in Leavenworth. Went to school in the district that I work in, which is kind of weird when you go back to work and there's still teachers there that taught you. But I've been here 23 years, so most of those folks have moved on and retired, and it's been a great career so far. Um, like I said, I graduated in 94, 98. I got my master electrical license, worked for a couple different companies, came onto the school district in 1999. And then 10 years later, 11 years later, we had a construction project that gave me an opportunity to step into a director role. And I've been doing that for the past 12 years or so. So in between there, graduated from Park University in 2010. And like I said, 23 years with the school district and counting. I've got great staff that work with me. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do every day. They make me look good. So they
Yeah.
do a fantastic job feeding me information and helping me keep this train rolling.
So how big is Leavenworth District? Like how many buildings do you have? That kind of thing.
So we just kind of reorganized. So we have a early education center, which is kind of becoming a new trend. So we have one of those that we took in elementary and turned into an early ed. So that's our pre-K and kindergarten. Then I have three elementary schools. I have a middle school that we have attached a 5-6 center to. So we have that center, and then we have a high school. So I think between the schools and the support buildings, we're around 11 buildings
Okay.
altogether. We have a fantastic sports complex for football and soccer. Last year, we just completed construction of a synthetic and natural turf baseball complex for softball and baseball. And yeah, we've got some pretty nice facilities here. And so it's a big task to keep them looking good and operational for everybody.
That's fantastic. Yeah, there's probably a lot of jealous people out there with a synthetic that really want a synthetic turf baseball softball facility.
Yeah, we have a lot of people asking about it. So right now we're really focused on trying to support our internal groups, baseball and softball, and give them every advantage they can have when they compete, and hosted a couple tournaments so far.
Very cool. So you have a lot more experience in this than I do. So there's several things I want to pick your brain on, but let's start with what are you working on right now that kind of gets you excited to head out the door in the morning and head to the office?
Um, so excitement can come from challenges. So I'm challenged right now. We all have staffing issues, and in our specifically our trades, our skilled trades area, I've got some turnover there. So what gets me excited is the training, sharing knowledge that I have, connecting with vendors like you've started to do here, and really teach the next generation of tradespeople how to operate within the facilities, how it's a little bit different than the private sector. and watch them grow. So right now, what I'm working on that I get excited every day is kind of taking inventory of where our deficits are with our skills. How do we grow that? How do we partner with vendors that we already have and take advantage of their knowledge base, tools, and really take the time to bring up that next 10 years of employees to take care of the buildings.
Yeah. I mean,
So that's really exciting to me.
yeah, I think it's super exciting. And ultimately you could be training and educating your replacement at some point.
I've
When
thought
I
about that.
so many guys are like us and are, I'm in my 50s, and when I get ready to retire, is that next person working here now that I should be mentoring or bringing along a little bit more for when that happens. So
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a couple of young folks that are in our trades group, and that thought has crossed my mind.
yeah.
If not, when that day comes, we'll find an adequate replacement. Somebody probably will make me look bad. That next generation will just outshine us. So, and that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm okay with that.
yeah. Well, that's really cool. I think just anytime we can invest in our employees, it, it's a passion of mine too. So I'm glad you share that, and just keep going, man.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so changing a little bit from there, I think these might be a little bit combined, but I want to talk about capital outlay planning, and then also just staying on top of the conditions of our facilities, like because I think they probably go hand in hand to a certain degree. Um, I know it's hard for us a lot of times to get out and be, walking facilities frequently. At least it's something I struggle with, and I even put it on my calendar. Like, I'm going to go see these buildings this week. So how do you? I guess maybe start with, how do you stay on top of the conditions that your facilities are in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think I'm pretty similar to what you just described. I tend to be in my office a little bit more than I want to be, just different tasks that keep you here. Um, so yeah, the capital planning and just facility conditions do go hand in hand. I ultimately rely on a lot of my staff for feedback. The folks that are in the buildings every day, working on the equipment, cleaning the buildings. Um, I've given them a lot of ability to lead and make decisions, identify problems and bring them to me, and come up with solutions. So the more they get to do that, the more they buy into the whole program. Um, they take it as a personal ownership, and that's been very successful. And I'm very fortunate, again, as I said, to have some great employees from our custodial through grounds and maintenance. um, in addition, I do make an effort to try and get out and visit with the principals, at least a sit down once a year. But then as you go through a building, you just kind of talk to them and they're like, hey, what about this? And you just kind of make a mental note, put it on your list. I was humbled. I had a middle school invite me to a classroom to do a presentation on some things related to maintenance. And this was one of the questions was how often do you get through the buildings? And it made me really stop and think that not as often as I should, not as often as I would like. But typically during the breaks, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas breaks, where we have so many days off, I get a little stir crazy. So I come in and I'll walk buildings at that time undisturbed, unbothered, and I kind of just take notes. Um, and then the capital things, you just kind of plug away on a list, and I just have a spreadsheet. It's pretty straightforward. Year to year, label them so I can find them. And uh, I think right before we got on here, I was telling you, I spend about a third of my annual budget on roofing. So there's a chunk of money every year that we go through just to keep the envelopes tight and dry. The rest of it, we try to spread out through each building, try to do something at each building every year. It could be a playground upgrade. It could be something for security. It could be something furniture wise. But we just keep those things rolling. Anytime a board member brings something to our attention, superintendent, any other administrator, we we add that to the list. And then every year I just kind of filter it through, reprioritize, push things out, and really just try to balance a budget of what I'm allotted for my capital expenditure. Unfortunately, some things get kicked down the road too far. And then we have opportunities, with architectural companies that can come in and before bonds or do an assessment, and they provide that bigger, more detailed, all-encompassing roadmap for us. And then we'll take pieces out of it, add it to our plan. And ultimately, it's just a constant, you're always looking, you're always paying attention, you're always listening, and any feedback you get, it's meaningful feedback. And if you don't take it that way, you're gonna fail, I think. So you have to take everything that's brought to you and analyze it to some level.
Yeah, I think it's a real balancing act. One of the things that we've done recently is I kind of created a 10-year plan that had HVAC, uh, roofing projects, flooring, and paving.
Mhm.
And started to look at like how could we be more intentional about like replacing carpet on a schedule instead of kind of just going in and saying, well, this room's terrible, let's do it, and but we're going to do this whole wing kind of thing. And then one of the tabs is everything else that gets brought to me. you know,
Yeah,
um, so how do you mentioned something there that I think is very unique about our jobs where you were invited into the classroom.
yeah,
And I'm trying to think if I've done some volunteer things in classrooms, but not directly related to my job. Like I've judged a wind turbine competition in a science room, and or you go to elementary schools and the kids walk by and they're like, "Hi, Mr. Jones," and
yeah.
um, tell me a little bit about how that makes you feel, like that side of our job.
I think I think we have a unique job, first of all. Unique in several ways. It's one of the few professions that kind of resets annually, that has so many changes every year. Um, we have so many different people that are involved in our district that I've always said you can find an answer to any question within a school district. And so when I get invited into a classroom, and it doesn't happen often, but usually at the middle school level, it's kind of an honor. It's they're looking for somebody to give an insight on whatever it is we're doing. So whether it's a construction project, um, or how to manage a facility, those type of things. I think that's kind of a perk, honestly. For me, I enjoy talking in front of a group. Now it took a while to get there, but yeah, it's a pretty cool to be somebody in a student's life, that can possibly mold, change, give some direction to what we do. Um, yeah, so I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it's really an unexpected benefit of the job for me, I think. And just really how everything we do, we're doing to support these kids that are learning and will be hopefully great adults once they
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
our district. So how big of a capital outlay budget do you normally have every year?
Um, Normally I have about 1.2 to 1.5 million to spend in capital. Usually it averages closer to the 1.2. Um, but I'll be honest, some of the funding that has come through, with the COVID relief has helped manage some of those HVAC projects that we've all had
Right.
and just couldn't get to. So we were able to take some of those things off the capital list. But yeah, about a little over $1 million just in the capital improvements. Um, and it sounds like a lot of money, but it doesn't go very far. Usually it's some roofing, maybe an appliance or two, and a couple few, just a few little projects here and there, and you're running out of money. Like you
Yeah.
said, you always have to be prepared for that last minute. Here we have to take care of this, or we have a leak, or we have a broken whatever. So when you're planning, you have to plan that contingency as well, and that's a big piece of it. So um, like I'm starting now to do my spending at the beginning of the year. So it's roofing assessments, it's a boiler that we're looking at replacing, furniture, equipment, And we even considered some vehicles. Those are very difficult to maneuver right now. But yeah, so you rearrange. So you have things that are due this year. It's going to get pushed off for a couple of years, and you hope you can pick that back up and stay on track. But yeah.
So I'm sure we're all sick of talking about COVID, but I did want to ask this. Did you guys do anything special during that time or after that time to like improve your indoor air quality um, with your
So
HVAC systems?
yeah, so I'll start by saying, having networking is a huge benefit. So there's a Kansas Association of Director of Plant and Facilities that we had met at, and outside of that, we just network with regional guys and gals that manage facilities. So just having those constant contacts when it came time to start making those decisions and answering those questions, we all leaned on each other, and that was great. What did we do? We did take advantage of some of those funds, updated some of our heating and cooling systems, purchased HEPA filters for classrooms and large spaces. A lot of our units, we were just coming out of a construction project, so we had just updated 27 rooftop units on a campus, all had UV lighting that
Oh,
is an additional help, but not the end all be all for the COVID treatment. Uh, and we always kind of take a look at what we can do for filtration. So we updated some filters that we could without hurting the systems. Of course, the cleaning habits went different direction. So we were touch surface cleaning, spray machines were purchased, and it's really kind of re-geared how we work even today coming out of the pandemic. We still tend to do more of that stuff more frequently while trying to work in the day-to-day cleaning. So
yeah, I think that's probably the biggest impact I've seen is that we ask a lot more of our custodial department during that time. And it's been very difficult to, I'll say, kind of move it back to where we were before because not everything do we want to move back to where we were before.
exactly.
Because I think we do have healthier buildings doing some of these things, but we're also not adding a lot of people. So it's a it's a balancing act there.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we've really done is we've purchased more equipment. So the bathroom machines and auto scrubbers that make our jobs that would normally be pretty routine and laborious, it speeds that whole process up. So we can gain some time back from our staff that we do have, um, and still be very effective in our cleaning. So, but yeah, you're right. It's more stuff, less people, and that's for everybody. So it's just getting used to the new norm.
It is. Have you guys looked at any of those robotic scrubbers?
We talked about it. We have some challenges with the regular ones already, so I don't want to introduce those just yet. But we did have that conversation briefly. You go to Walmart, to the big stores, and you see them, and they're like always stuck somewhere. I don't know that I'm ready for that headache yet. So
I know.
very cool machines, but
It's very cool. I think over time it'll get even better and better, but
yeah.
we don't have any of those here. Um, so what all trades do you have internally?
So we have electrician, a plumber. Both of them are licensed within the city. Um, I have a gentleman that's been with me he's going on 44 years. Um, so he knows everything about just about everything in this district. And he's said that he's looking at moving on down the road here very soon. We had a gentleman that did locks for us. So we had kind of an internal locksmith. He's been out for a little bit. So I'm looking at trying to train and cross train again. Where's our deficiencies at? So locksmithing, we have an in-house painter. So every summer he gains a couple summer helpers, and we hit every hallway in the district, try to take care of some office spaces and work classrooms in throughout the year. So those are really our trades right now.
Okay.
General maintenance, and then we have a whole team of grounds crew that does all of our plowing, snow removal, mowing, field prep, everything. And And honestly, I'm pretty proud of that team, those two pieces, because we get so much done. And I was just complimenting them today about how well they work. We try to get that system in place and the guys in place, and there's a good chemistry. So you can get so much done when people are positive and happy, and I think we're there right now.
That's awesome. It's great when you have a good team that just meshes and takes
Absolutely.
care of business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything that I haven't asked you or you want to share that seems worthwhile?
Well, I'm just kind of recapping. I watched the other or listened to the other podcasts, and systems and preparedness. When I first listened to this, I didn't know what to expect, and the first podcast you had on after your introduction, I think was Richard Bell from Andover, and he talked about systems.
Yeah.
And you do the same job for so many years, and you've tried things, right? I've tried different systems, work order systems, and those things, and sometimes you get a little frustrated. You try something, you go back to what you knew, and listening to him talk kind of made me take accountability for where we're at and where we need to go. So, kind of digging in and understanding what other things can I do right now? What can get me excited to keep us moving the right direction without spinning our wheels, right? So, so that's kind of where we landed on the training, looking at our systems and the preparedness. If he had I believe he had just started a new position or was forced into his new position pretty quickly with that windstorm or the tornado. So it's really had me take a step back, and we're reviewing our process, our documentation for our buildings, shut off valves, gas, water, electric. How does that work? Making sure those documents are updated with our construction. And just really kind of overview, taking account of all the systems that we already have in place and seeing what we need to actually touch and make better. So um, I'll say that that's a positive out of the second podcast, Burke. It's you're making changes already for me. So that's good stuff. I think that's good stuff.
It's awesome. So like I agree with you on this whole systems thing. There's things that have been here forever that I don't even know. Like, oh, we have a process for that, So I think, I'm just constantly learning those things. And then as things come up, I'm trying to say, okay, if that happens again, we probably need to have a process for that.
Yeah.
Like one of the things we've implemented recently is we going through a big bond project. We had a lot of surplus furniture and um, you know how it is. There's just always seems to be some things that are aging out of buildings or whatever. And so we put together a protocol for like, here's how we're managing auctions.
Hmm.
Because we like to auction that stuff off as much as we can. And, um, that kind of simplifies it. It makes it transparent to the community, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it's just, I mean, that's a system we've implemented recently that um, was good, you
Yeah.
know? And when I heard Richard talking about all the teacher stuff in classrooms that's like not on an inventory list anywhere,
Yeah.
it made me kind of think, man, what do we need to do to tighten that up ourselves? Um, and it's a hard thing to get your hands around because it's a
It is.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if our jobs, like several others, it covers so many different aspects, and you need to learn so much about so many different things that it takes time, and you have to always prioritize. And the auction system, like you said, there's always new things that come out. It used to be garage sales, and then Purple Wave and these other systems come online. So it's like, well, we need to revamp and redo how we do these things. And again, it's talking with other facility directors and having a breakfast with them and what's going on in your world versus my world. And you always glean a little something out from those meetings and encounters. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but it can always be a fun challenge too.
Absolutely. Okay, so at the end, I ask everybody the same three questions.
Okay.
So I call it rapid fire. It doesn't have to be rapid fire, but the same three questions. So if your parents had to describe what you did for a living, what would they say?
Um, Probably just fix buildings. Make sure buildings are comfortable.
There you go.
That's kind of a nutshell, I think.
That's a good answer. So do you use a paper system or a digital system like for notes and organization and stuff?
Um, so if it's something I want to save, like bid documents and stuff, it's all digital. I keep it all on a Google Drive. For me, day-to-day notes, it's a yellow pad and a pen. So, and if it's really important, I'll transfer it. But I'm not one that sits there and takes notes on a computer.
Okay. So no iPads. You're not writing on your iPad. You're the yellow.
I'll use it to look things up, but I don't typically take notes electronically.
There you okay. So you get your best work done in the like what time of day do you get your best work done? Mornings, afternoon?
Mornings.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a early morning. Let's get all of our meetings scheduled. Let's schedule all of our work, and usually afternoon it's office time and kind of wrap up the day and plan for the next. So yeah, mornings are my time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for joining us. If people want to ask you any other questions or get a hold of you, is kind of LinkedIn the best way to get to you?
Yeah, that's a good way. I do check it frequently. They can always get me at my district email as well. They'd have to look us up on USD 453 and go into facilities, and you can reach me that way. So, but my email I think is in there on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Matt. It was a great time.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see you in person again,
yeah,
probably next year at
yeah. It
the.
might be next year, but yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I think it's a good thing you're doing, and I'm excited to hear what else you have coming up.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us and have a good week.
Thank you. You too.